In this video, we're going to take a look at how we go about finding the least common multiple. To begin with, we need to look at what are multiples. Okay, when we look at multiples, let's think multiply. So while factors dealt with almost more fractions, what's something that's smaller generally, with multiples we're thinking about what's larger. So for example, if I gave you the number 4 and I asked you what were the multiples of 4, we're going to deal with 4, 8, 12, 16. So 4 times 1, 4 times 2, 4 times 3, 4 times 4, 4 times 5, 4 times 6, and so on. When we begin to think about what's the least common multiple, for example, if I wanted to say what's the least common multiple of 4 and 6, one way I can figure these out is by listing the multiples of both. So for 6, I could do 6, 12, and as soon as I find one in common, the LCM will be 12. So this way works fairly well, the listing out of multiples. It's fairly quick to do because we're used to multiplying, listing out the multiples. But if we are dealing with really large numbers, it's going to be a little bit harder. So there's also another technique. And this deals with the division ladders once again. Okay. If I take the 4 and the 6 again, and I'm going to find sort of what are the factors in the fact that these are both divisible by 2, leaving me with 2 and 3. To find the LCM, well, first of all, I could say that the GCF is 2. But to find the LCM, I'm going to take that 2 and multiply it by the 2 times the 3. So I would get 2 times 2 times 3, so 4 times 3, which is 12, which is the LCM. So this is the reason why I like the division ladders. In addition to helping you to find what the GCF is, it will also give you what the LCM is. So let's do one more example. Let's say I wanted you to find what the LCM of let's do 12 and 10 is. Now let's do 20. Okay, so I start with 12 and I start with 20. What number do they have in common? Let's say right away you say 2. Okay, then I get 6 and I get 10. What else is in common? Well, there's another 2, leaving you with 3 and 5. So if I ask you what the GCF is, I'm going to take these two numbers, multiply them together, and get a GCF of 4. When I talk about the LCM, I'm still going to take the 2 times the 2, but now I'm going to multiply it by 3 and by 5. Okay, so I get 4 times 3 times 5. 4 times 3 is 12, times 5 will give me 60. Which I could also do by listing out 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 20, 40, 60, and I would get the least common multiple. But the division letters are a little bit faster, I'd find. The other method is going to be prime factorization. And if I can steer you away from one method, it's probably going to be this prime factorization. Because what prime factorization you're going to do is, if I start with the 4 and the 6 again, you're going to list out the prime factorization. 2 times 2 is 4. For 6, it's 2 times 3. You're going to find what your GCF is. In this case, 2 is my GCF, my greatest common factor. And then you're going to include whatever's left. So times 2 times 3, which would give you the 12. If, for example, I was looking at 12 and 20 again, 12's prime factorization would be 2 times 2 times 3. 20 would be 2 times 2 times 5. I'm going to circle the common factors, so it's going to be 2 times 2, and then I'm going to multiply by what's left. So basically, what I'm doing here with prime factorization is the same exact thing I was doing with the division ladders, but I think people, a lot of my students find it a little bit more challenging and harder to visualize. So I would lead you towards more of listing off the factors or using division ladder. When I'm asking you to do the work, I want you to be able to find the least common multiple. So I don't really care which method you use. I would try both of them at this point, both listing off factors and the division ladders, and decide which one are you more comfortable with. And stick to it, be able to do it, and to do it well. But keep in mind what the difference between a greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is the largest number the two numbers have in common as something they can be divided by. So it's going to be smaller than the number, where the least common multiple, since it's a multiple, has to be something that's larger, and it's the largest value that they have in common.